How are you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. Very good.
Yeah, good.
Unfortunately, the dogs are in the background and they might growl and bark and stuff. But
Excellent. Good. But at least you're not in a car park this time.
not in a car park, and
Yeah.
I've got a brand new office chair.
Oh, not the comfy chair.
It's actually really nice.
Is it? Is it ergonomic?
Yes, it is. I've been sat on a broken one for over a year, so
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Great. Well, this pod's going to sound fantastic then.
Well, I might be too relaxed and comfortable, so maybe we'll end up all sort of
That's okay.
close to the mic. And
I think we could be a little bit more laid back if we wanted.
Yeah. The Gerry Anderson podcast late night edition.
Yeah, cool.
Well, should we do that for Pod 12 then? Not all the way through. Pod 12, here we go.
Hello, partners. You are listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Cheerio.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get started.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the new laid-back Gerry Anderson podcast. I can't.
I tried.
I can't keep that up without laughing.
No, I tried to join in, but I was
Also,
already
we're
laughing.
not laid back, are we?
Not really, no.
That's just not us. That's not what we do, is it?
No. Frantic.
Yeah.
Didn't somebody write us a review about the sort of
Yeah.
unplanned, haphazard, frenetic style?
yeah.
Which
I
is
mean,
a
that's it in
hallmark
nutshell.
of our style, I think.
Exactly. It's what people have come to expect from these podcasts.
Yeah.
It would be a shame to let them down, wouldn't it?
It would be a terrible shame.
Yeah,
For those
yeah.
who haven't come to expect anything because it's their first time here, who are you?
Yeah, well, that's a possibility. Well, my name's Richard James, but who are you?
I am Jamie Anderson. And
Welcome,
that's
everyone. Yeah.
all they need to know, isn't it,
Yeah,
Richard?
welcome to Pod 12 of the Gerry Anderson podcast. This is our weekly get-together where we can share some views and comments and Gerry Anderson news. You can get in touch with us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. You can please rate us, review us, and share us on whatever platform you're listening to us on, because that way all the more people will get to hear us and all the more people will leave reviews and tell us what they think.
Exactly. And don't
Yeah.
forget to subscribe, whatever you do, because then you get
Yeah.
alerted every Monday morning when we release
Yes.
our weekly episode.
Yes.
We've got, what have we got? News, listener emails, all that stuff, but also part 2 of the Chris Packham interview.
Yeah.
Now, Chris was almost encyclopedic.
Yeah,
But
amazing.
when we left him last week, he was saying that Joe 90 almost destroyed his love of everything Gerry Anderson. I mean,
Wow.
it's very unusual to find someone that doesn't like Joe 90.
Jamie.
I was
Were
very
you
happy
nodding your
to
head in
discover
agreement
that.
as he said that?
Massive nods
Yes.
were exchanged in that part. You can probably hear the swish of my head nodding
Yes.
back and forth in that interview.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway-
he did tweet about it. That was after our bank holiday. I almost said bonk holiday. You could edit that out if you want.
Let's leave it in. Lovely.
So-
Hope everybody had a nice bonk holiday.
So he did tweet after our bank holiday edition that came out last week, the first part of his interview. He said, this week I had a fab chat with I'm Jamie Anderson about all things Gerry Anderson, Stingray, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, UFO, and the wretched Joe 90. Yes. Yeah.
the
So
wretched
yeah,
Joe
what a
90
fantastic.
indeed.
He gave you so much though, didn't he, that you had to split it in two.
Yeah, but it was
Amazing.
great. It was lovely stuff. And then after the interview, he took me into his man cave, which is
Right.
rather exciting.
Yeah.
And in there, he had all manner of amazing Gerry Anderson memorabilia.
Gosh.
And including a Rosenthal Thunderbird 2. Mm-hmm. I think Rosenthal's either late 60s or early 70s. Beautiful green plastic thing in its box in perfect condition, which he
Wow.
then dropped on the floor.
No!
But it
Ow.
survived. It survived. It was fine.
Wow.
But it's I think it's the very Thunderbird 2 that he spoke about in last week's
Right.
part 1,
Yeah.
where his dad kept trying to put the wings on backwards,
Yes.
the right way in inverted
Yes.
commas round to
Yeah.
fly.
Great.
Anyway, it was brilliant, and he really is a true fan. So I hope you enjoy that when we get there.
And also another interesting thing that happened on our last podcast, Pod 10, Jamie, was that you correctly...
Pod 11.
Was that Pod 11? You
Yes.
see how quickly they're running away with us now. You correctly deduced the shade of green for Thunderbird 2, didn't you? That's how niche we are, listeners.
I couldn't believe it.
I know.
We were just like taking the mickey out of the fact that Thunderbird 2 is always a different colour of green, and I threw out a random Pantone colour, 369C, I believe it was.
There it is.
And it just so happens that it's actually quite a good match for one of the Thunderbird 2 greens.
Yeah,
I could not believe it. So thank you to our eagle-eyed listener who went and checked it and then commented on the YouTube version
That's
of
right.
this podcast.
So now you're going to hazard a guess as to Thunderbird 4 now, please. What do you think? What is that kind of sickly...
I really don't know.
Sort of yellowy...
223B.
Okay, all right, interesting. Close enough.
Who knows? This is a
find
weekly
out.
segment now where I have to guess a Pantone. Let's not make it that. In fact, let's stop doing this nonsense.
Yes, all right.
It's very important that we get to the Gerry Anderson news, don't you think?
I think you could be right.
Here it is.
Hi, Gordon Tracy speaking. It's time for the Gerry Anderson news.
Right, it's time for the Gerry Anderson news. Here
Great.
we are.
There's always news.
I know. Every week when I think, I don't know if there's any news this week.
I know.
And it turns out there always is, which is nice.
We
Isn't
love a bit
it?
of news, yeah.
Yeah. So, first up, it's all about me.
Obviously.
I've done a little bit of writing,
Oh, well done, Jamie.
just for fun.
Joined up?
Well, I typed it.
Oh, I see.
My handwriting is illegible, Richard,
Yeah.
as I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah.
No, I've written a little article called "The Perpetual Power of Puppetry," and thank goodness I've got a pop shield on my microphone for that.
Yes.
Nice and alliterative.
It is. Nice and
Yeah.
plosive, you might say.
Yes, extremely
Yeah.
plosive. Anyway, the perpetual power of puppetry is my thoughts and feelings on puppetry and why it's so important, why we should still embrace it, and why it's still relevant in a modern television landscape.
Okay.
And I think that you might possibly enjoy reading it. So if you'd like to read it, I've tweeted it. It's on Medium. Which is a sort of article posting website. So yes, just search The Perpetual Power of Puppetry and you should be able to find it. If not, it'll be in the show notes for this podcast.
Great.
GerryAnderson.co.uk/podcast/pod12.
Yeah, but give us a little
12.
tease. I mean, what sort of thing do you talk about, Jamie?
Well, I think the crucial thing for puppetry is that we don't realise what effect it has on our brains when you're watching consciousness put into an inanimate object.
Yes.
And that it tweaks very particular areas of the brain which are linked to sort of spotting predators in our distant ancestors, and why that makes us connect so strongly.
That's, I mean, if I may say, this rings true for me, actually, as you know, I'm on tour at the moment with a children's show, a David Walliams children's show called Awful Auntie. And as part of the cast, we have a puppet owl called Wagner. Mm-hmm. And as is the fashion these days, and rightly so, the puppeteer is present on stage with the owl, and you can see the puppeteer, but within a few seconds, really, you don't see her at all. You focus entirely on the owl.
This is
because she is so
exactly it.
very good. This is Robbie Bellicom. I should just mention her name, Roberta Bellicom. Excellent, and her way into the owl, as it were, is breathing. It's the breath. So as you see her breathe, so the owl breathes as well. It's quite magical.
Well, I think I mentioned in the article about the fact that puppeteers' breaths and heartbeat actually give the puppet an unintended extra bit of life.
Yeah.
So,
Well.
go and give that a read.
Yes, how interesting.
If you're not in the mood for reading, but you are in the mood for an event,
Right, yes.
then perhaps you might like to attend a celebration of ITC. All things ITC. 17th of November, being held at Elstree Studios, courtesy of the Unmutual, the Prisoner fan club.
Yeah,
and,
great stuff,
information site. Mm-hmm. It's a bit Gerry Anderson-y because already announced Georgina Moon and Shane Rimmer are going.
Wowzers.
So there's a bit of UFO and a bit of Thunderbirds and everything else that Shane did there.
Nice.
And also I'm going to go.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well,
that's
I can't-
worth the price of admission on its own,
Have
isn't
it
it?
all. Oh, we're going for different approaches there, but yes, I'll be there. It'll be lovely to see you. I believe tickets are from £30, but it'll be packed full of lovely, interesting people and me.
Yeah.
And you can find out more at theunmutual.co.uk.
Great.
So,
Hello.
Excuse me, Richard.
It's just I've just come back from the weekend away, you see, and she's missed me, haven't you?
That's sweet.
Haven't you?
While you're stroking your cat,
Yes. Carry on.
there's a bit more reading to do on the Gerry Anderson website.
Wow, nice.
If you happen to have an interest in Star Trek and Gerry Anderson productions, then you may wish to read Chris Dale's new article, Connecting the Threads, which connects Star Trek and Gerry Anderson through actors and writers and various other bits and bobs.
Uh-huh.
So a bit of fun there. A friendly reminder about Firestorm.
Oh, we love Firestorm.
Well, hopefully we do.
Lots of love for Firestorm.
We shared a little fairly old actually now, a bit of test footage of one of the puppets being tested from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
On the Firestorm Facebook page, facebook.com/FirestormHQ.
Yeah.
And it's gone sort of almost, I don't want to say the V word, but almost viral.
Has it?
It's crazy.
That's great.
It's been watched nearly 100,000 times in 3 days. It's crazy. And by the time this goes out, I don't know how many, but do come and join us online on our various social channels for Firestorm. It's Firestorm HQ on Facebook and Instagram, SF9 Firestorm on Twitter, or on the website gerryanderson.co.uk/Firestorm. There's lots of Firestorm related stuff coming up in the next few weeks on the podcast.
Yes.
But you'll be able to see some behind the scenes goodies, videos, clips, all sorts of stuff. So get on Firestorm social media, please.
Yeah, now, Jamie, I very often see people on Twitter and Facebook and so on say, well, I was too late to join the Kickstarter campaign for it, or I wasn't aware of it. How can I get to see it? Will there be an opportunity for people who didn't contribute to the Kickstarter stuff to see Firestorm?
That is what we are working towards, and
Great.
the best way to find out about it is by going on those social channels.
I see.
On a completely unrelated note,
Yes.
remember that date I keep mentioning?
Oh, yes. Is
Saturday
it here
the
yet?
27th of October in London.
Right. Okay. But that's all you can tell us. 27th of October in London.
Yes.
But last time you said you were going to tell us more on the 27th of September.
Well, I am going to tell you more on or before the 27th of September, but the most important date for your diary is the 27th of October in London.
It's infuriating. Just infuriating.
Stop the podcast. Well, listeners, once again, Richard and I have recorded before some news was announced. I've been going on about the 27th of October for a few weeks now, and you may have seen already, but we are premiering Gerry Anderson's Firestorm, the minisode, our pilot short episode, at MCM Comic Con on the 27th of October this year at the Excel in London. We'll be doing a panel with Steve Begg, Mike Tucker, Gethin Anthony, and me. It'll be moderated by Nick Briggs, who plays Remus in Firestorm. And we're going to show you some behind-the-scenes stuff, let you in on some secrets, hopefully some super news as well. It's being held 1 to 2 p.m. MCM Comic Con at the Excel in London on the 27th of October. I hope we'll see you there. Just buy yourself a ticket, get in on the day, and then it's first come, first served at the door to come into the screening. I look forward to seeing you there. And now, back to the podcast. That's the end of the news for this episode.
Well, let's draw a line under that then, shall we?
Consider it drawn.
There you go. That's the news for this week. Do drop us your comments and messages and thoughts to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Coming up, we have that second part of that fantastic interview that Chris Packham gave to Jamie about all things Gerry Anderson. And we also have the randomizer from Chris Dale, of course, his weekly look at a random episode from the Gerry Anderson universe. And I'm sure he'll give us his comments and thoughts on that, as can you. Please don't forget, we say it every few minutes, and we really do mean it, to rate us, review us, share us, and subscribe. That would be lovely. Thank you very much.
We literally say it every 12 seconds.
We do.
If you missed it, we'll be back with that announcement shortly.
Exactly. Now, what about this giveaway that we had for the last few weeks, the £200 worth of Gerry Anderson goodies? Is that, are we too late for that?
Yes, it is over. August's giveaway is over. The winner will have been announced by the time this podcast is out, and you'll be able to find the winner on the Gerry Anderson website. but there'll be a new one coming up very soon.
Great.
So sit tight, and we will announce details in due course.
I feel I should also give a little plug because, well, this podcast, when it will be going out on September the 3rd, Monday, September the 3rd, which sees also the return of Fab Live.
So it does,
Doesn't it, Jamie? I'm looking at you.
Yes.
Doesn't it?
So if you're listening to this immediately after release on the 3rd of September,
Yeah.
then
Well, we'll see you later.
This evening we'll see you on the Gerry Anderson Facebook page at
That's right.
facebook.com/Gerry Anderson Official.
That's
at
right.
7 p.m. UK time.
That's right. So that's Jamie and I were wittering on, really. Again, I mean, it's more of
It's
more of a
this, but in
thing.
video form.
But you can see us, that's right. And people leave us their comments live, of course, as they watch the broadcast, and they can interact a little bit more, which is lovely. But you can send us some emails for us to read out.
Yes.
Questions, pictures.
Yeah, fan art, anything you like, really. Haikus
Yeah.
to fablive@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Yeah,
And
that's
if
great.
we get it in time, we'll try and incorporate it, but it's always difficult to incorporate
Yeah.
it on the day of. But you never know.
Yeah, you never know. That's right. So we'll see you. We'll see you on September the 3rd for Fab Live. In the meantime, is it time for some lovely listener emails that we've had sent to us here at the podcast?
Well, I think it probably is.
I'm glad you said that.
Shall we read some?
Let's do that.
Right, well, do you want to start, Richard?
I have one here. This is from Paul Middleton. And Paul says, "Hi, Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue." What I wonder who's who. I quite fancy myself as Captain Black with this 5 o'clock shadow that I've got, you see.
Well, he said Scarlet and Blue.
I know.
It's got to be one of those, isn't it?
Well, I've got to be Captain Scarlet, haven't I?
I mean, with your hair.
I've got the chiselled looks. With my hair? Oh, okay.
Well, you've got hair. I mean,
I've got hair. That's true.
If I got a blonde wig, I could be Captain Blue.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. He says he's very much enjoying the podcast. It's so good to have such a podcast from the source, as it were, and that you have options on the shows. Not everything is wonderful, and that's refreshing. So we were talking about this last time, that if there is a particular show you don't like, well, hey, that's cool, because there are a dozen others that you will like. And people do have, differing views on their favourite show and so on. Due to my rekindled interest, he said, that never really went away, he's re-watching his Captain Scarlet DVDs, an ITV release, so interesting to hear the interview with the chap from Network. That was Tim Beddoes in Pod 9, I'm guessing?
10?
Off the top of my head, was it?
It's so hard to remember which one's which.
It really is. I, for one, he says, would enjoy more technical items than the interviews, but I know that can put people off.
We've actually had quite a lot of positive feedback from that Tim
Yeah.
Beddoes one, which I was really pleased to know,
Yeah.
because it was a bit of a gamble.
Sure.
Trying to say, do you want to know this technical stuff about negs and interpos
Yeah,
and prints
yeah.
and other stuff
Yeah.
like that? So good.
Yeah. He said, I grew up with Captain Scarlet, where my wife Sandy was first introduced to the Anderson world of wonder with Thunderbirds. In fact, I always wanted a cap with a flip-down microphone. I still do, if the truth be told. Well, we'd all like one of those, wouldn't we?
We would.
It would make a fancy Bluetooth headset. Yes, it would.
Quite elaborate, though. Quite elaborate.
Yeah, well, maybe. I had an SPV and a UFO interceptor as a child, sadly played with to death, but enjoyed them at the time. I have found some episodes of Secret Service, which I have been watching. What do you say is true with the mixture of real locations and puppets? Odd. There's no question over the usual high production values, though. Maybe an inclusion of Stanley Unwin, but the whole thing seems a bit off. Maybe the premise is too thin or the shrinking device somewhat poor. I don't know, but well worth the watch. Very interesting.
Quirky. That's what it is.
That's Stanley Unwin as a priest, undercover secret agent.
Lives with his
masquerading.
gardener, Matthew. Yeah. Shrinks Matthew down with his weird Bible into a suitcase.
Yeah.
All very strange.
Yeah, it is. He then continues, I've heard here and there in your conversations about Dick Spanner, much underrated in my view. Any chance of a DVD release?
Well, Paul, it's already out on DVD.
Where have you been?
Yeah, just
it's there.
pop to the Gerry Anderson store, shop.gerryanderson.co.uk, and you'll find it right there.
Yeah. Now, for my money, Dick Spanner seems it's an unusual Gerry Anderson production, isn't it? You wouldn't think, looking
It is
at
a
it,
bit.
it doesn't leap out and say Gerry Anderson. Was that a deliberate change of direction and style?
I think it was one of those, this could be a bit of fun projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's still a Gerry Anderson-ness to some of the designs, and Dad and himself was actually made into a puppet in the show.
Right.
Which Richard Gregory, who made the puppet, still owns. He brought to my house recently, which is a bit strange, saying, here's a small puppet of your father.
Yeah, that is odd, isn't it?
No, it's a quirky show, but I don't know whether... Yeah, it feels even less Gerry Anderson than the Secret Service.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Paul then finally says, also, what would be good if broadcast rights allowed would be a Barry Gray item. That would be a wonderful thing. If it wasn't for him, where would we be? I don't think the shows would have been the same. Anyway, keep up the good work, and that's best regards, Paul Middleton. Well, here on Barry Gray and that wonderful music. It's so evocative, isn't it? We've mentioned this a few times before as well. You only have to hear the opening bars of, many of those old...
Any of them, really.
Yeah, exactly. And sends shivers down the spine. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for getting in touch.
Yes, indeed.
Good to hear from you.
Richard, I've got an email here.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I just have to pull out the photo that came with it.
Oh,
Hang
yes,
on.
okay. Oh, no, this is going to be interesting. This is a visual... little visual for you to describe for us, isn't it?
Yes, it's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did ask, I think. So
Yeah.
This email... Oh, my God, I don't even know who it's from. Sorry.
Well, this is from Dave Dunning, isn't it?
Yeah, this email is from Dave Dunning.
Yes.
Dave said, while I was listening to Pod 10 on Saturday, I was hanging up this canvas, which my wife got at a guide hut sale.
Okay, and he sent us a lovely picture.
Yes, he did.
So off you go.
Well, I can see Paul's desk. I assume it's a work work desk, maybe work from he works at home. Nice
Dave.
two-tiered.
Dave's desk.
Yeah, a bit of a monitor on the left there. There's a hammer,
Yes.
and a tape measure, and a
And the
pencil.
canvas.
So he's been working hard there.
Yeah.
Oh, and the canvas itself,
Yes.
is lovely. It looks like a one-off hand-painted canvas featuring the 5 Thunderbirds vehicles in front of Tracy Island.
Nice.
It's lovely, but up on the wall is also a big kind of comic strip style canvas type thing as well, featuring all the vehicles.
Yeah.
So,
we
Dave,
think we know where,
you're clearly a fan.
Yeah, that's right.
And in fact, Richard, can you see on the filing cabinet on the right-hand side?
Yes.
Is that like a Virgil Tracy
hang on, what?
head magnet on the right there?
I think it could be, couldn't it?
Yeah, Dave, let us know what that is.
Yes.
Have we identified it correctly? Anyway,
Yes.
I'll put this
that's good.
picture on the show notes so that people can
Yeah,
share
great. So
it with
everyone
us.
could see it, exactly. And you can all help. That's great. Simon Rooney got in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. He says, gentlemen, which solves the who goes first conundrum. Yeah, very
Well
good, Simon.
done, Simon.
Yeah,
Very clever. Very clever.
I've always loved Gerry Anderson's work and eagerly lapped up Stingray, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, and UFO during my formative years. I didn't want to grow up too quickly, he says. Being at boarding school, I was deprived of my weekly fix during term time, but playtime with Thunderbird 2, Pod 4 of course, SPV and the UFO Interceptor, why was it green, kept the thrill going until it was time to escape home again. I joined Fanderson many years ago, went to a speech in Tunbridge Wells featuring the man himself, Mr. Thunderbirds. How exciting that was, and I enjoyed the stage show at the Aldwych Theatre. I came across the Fab Live programmes on YouTube, there we go, mentioning them earlier, and then the incredible podcast started. My excuse to go for a long drive or two to listen and enjoy the whole episode. Well, that's nice, but keep your hands on the wheel! I was on a cookery course, says Simon, with Lizo Mazimba a few years ago. Little did I know that we shared a love of all things Anderson. We could have had so much more. We could have had many more interesting chats over our hot ovens. Well, this is our great interview that we did with Lizo Mazimba in Pod. Come on, help me out. 8?
Pod
7?
8?
Yeah.
9?
Anyway, do go back and have a listen. Gerry Anderson fans are everywhere. For my recent 60th birthday, he says...
Happy birthday. Belated.
Indeed. My present list was an updated box sets of Gerry Anderson productions. Many of my friends may have thought this an odd choice, but it's amazing how many of them happily sit down to watch, reliving their childhoods too. Yes, I bet they did. My career as a pilot was a happy result of having heroes such as Biggles and Virgil Tracy. Yeah.
Best pilot there. See, he
Lovely,
didn't, he
isn't it?
didn't go for Scott. Real pilots
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
choose
right.
Scott because he's all flash and no
Okay.
no substance.
Well, we'll see what Shane Rimmer says about that when you see him in yeah. Sadly, continues Simon, I can never thank Gerry Anderson for the positive effect he has had on my life, but I can publicly recognise him on this forum where his life's work continues. Thank you, sir, he says. Best wishes, Simon Rooney. Lovely, but that's a lovely thought.
Cheers, Simon, and
Yeah.
consider him publicly recognised.
Yeah, exactly right. That's lovely.
Brilliant.
Very nice. And again, someone else sort of, a career as a pilot, being inspired by your dad's work, Jamie. We hear that an awful lot,
Isn't it
don't
brilliant?
we? Yeah, it's lovely.
I love it. We hear it
Yeah.
non-stop, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
I've got one here from Lewis, Richard.
Hello, Lewis.
Lewis says, hello, Richard and Jamie, or whatever your stage names are.
Stage names, there's a thought. Dick Dolphin, how's that? You can call me Dick Dolphin. That's a good stage name, isn't it?
Dick Dolphin.
Yes. I get lots of work with a name like that. Because it ain't working with Richard James, I tell you that.
Right, well, hello, Dick Dolphin and Jamie. It's very late, Richard, isn't it? Is that your best dolphin noise? It sounded a bit ducky.
Well, it's the best I can do.
All right, ducky. Right, I've just listened to Pod 10 while driving back from London. Your good humour and entertaining podcast kept me sane on the built-up traffic that is the M25.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you... Yeah.
Yeah, glad you're on the M25 and not us. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I heard you talking about the Modifius Thunderbirds game a few pods ago and wondered if you knew they released a role-playing game for it. I think it would be a great addition to the podcast or as a brand new one altogether. Would you consider doing this so I can join in? Keep up the good work and hopefully see you in September in Leicester. That's at the Fab Worlds of Anderson event.
Great.
How would we do a role-playing thing on the podcast? I'm sure we could somehow.
I don't know. I mean,
a gamified element.
Yeah. My son is a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, which I thought was something that had died in the 1980s, but it's still quite a strong following, yeah. And I think you could probably do... He does sort of Star Wars versions and Star Trek versions and things. I'm sure you could, make your own kind of Thunderbirds D&D game, possibly. I'm way out of my depth now, as you could probably tell.
Yeah, no, I haven't got a clue either. But
I bet someone has. I bet someone out there listening has played Dungeons and Dragons with a Thunderbirds theme.
If you have...
Yeah.
Email us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
I'm thinking Andrew Clements, Chris Thompson, must have done.
I'm sure we'll find someone. Anyway, Lewis, we'll see you in September, or I will. Richard won't.
No, rub it in.
He's working.
Yeah.
Right, Richard, we've got one last email for this pod.
Finally, for this we have, this is from, let me just scroll down, this is from Steve Cann. Steve Cann says, hi, Jamie and Richard. Just to say thanks for such a fab podcast. I've been listening since day one and love listening to it at work through my earphones. That's probably the safest way to do it, isn't it? I got into Gerry Anderson in the early 70s with reruns of Thunderbirds, which was my favourite programme. In the infants at school, all the boys used to make plasticine Thunderbird craft in our plasticine lesson. Yes, we had one of those.
I wish we had plasticine lessons at my school when I was a kid.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
It's amazing.
I thought, as a child, it was made in America and was most surprised later to find out that many people who worked on these shows actually come from my hometown of Maidenhead, and that Thunderbirds was, of course, made in the rather un-Hollywood Slough trading estate.
It's got its own sort of glamour.
Yeah, but it's all true. You're absolutely right. My son Sam got into Thunderbirds at the age of 3 when he found a model of Thunderbird 2 under my bed. He asked if it was an aeroplane. I explained to him that it was a Thunderbird. Wasting no time, I grabbed one of my Thunderbirds videos to show him, and he absolutely loved it and soon became almost obsessed as I'd been with the show back in the 70s.
Brilliant.
Well, I mean, that's what we say. Every generation discovers it anew, don't they?
Absolutely.
When my son was about 6, we finally got to meet Gerry. We'd heard he was doing an appearance to publicise the Thames Valley Ambulance Helicopter Service at a local car dealership in Maidenhead. We got there early and no one else seemed to be around, so we were able to have a lovely chat with him. Among other things, he asked my son if he was afraid of the hood. He was such a kind and modest person. It was an honour to meet him. He posed for a photo too with my son on his knee, which we had on display at home for years. Please keep doing what you're doing. Best wishes, Steve Cann.
Thanks, Steve. We love that. I love the handing down of Gerry Anderson shows from one generation to the next. It's brilliant.
Yes.
And it's a really nice shared thing for parents and grandparents to do. And I keep hearing it all the time. So it's just so nice that it continues in that way.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Steve.
Absolutely. And if, like Steve, you've got stories of having met Gerry at a convention or an event or, just walking up and down the street and you got a chance to talk with him, well, we'd love to hear if you're happy to share with us what your conversation was and what you spoke about with him. So do send your memories to us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. That would be lovely.
Yeah, it would be more than lovely. I love reading these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, Richard.
Yes.
That's enough listener emails. I'm sure people are gagging to hear the second part of our Chris Packham interview, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Well,
No,
if they're gagging or not, they've got no choice because
Here
it's happening now. Here we go with Chris.
Bullied terribly.
Yeah. So
They misjudged it. I think, how dare I suggest that, but I do think they got that one wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to find an ally in the not liking Joe 90 club.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm totally with you.
yeah.
But yeah, funny that it drove you almost away from things, having been such a fan of Captain Scarlet.
That's right. It didn't progress. Everything was going well, and then Joe 90 came in, and I suppose it was, the other thing is that think of the heroes of that age for boys, in science. It was our astronauts. They were all, men, grown men. They were all scientists. They were all extraordinarily brave, being put in these ridiculous craft and blasted into space with huge amounts of explosive fuel. And they were what we aspired to be. Astronaut was what I wanted to be. It's what all of us wanted to be at that point. And then all of a sudden we had this precocious child. It didn't fit the mould for the sort of superhero, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. Preaching to the converted.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Secret Service. Did you ever catch that when it was part?
I remember having the bubblegum cards, and I've got a couple of them. I don't have the set, and that sums it up.
Right, fair enough.
I don't have the set.
Yeah.
So I've got the set of Thunderbirds, I've got loads of Stingray ones. I've got loads of spares and 2 sets of Captain Scarlet. But yeah, Secret Service it came and went really quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, there's only 13 episodes. Only some regions. Yeah,
really?
Lou hated it. He cancelled the series halfway through. So yeah,
right.
That was the nail in the coffin for Supermarionation, really.
Yeah.
It was a very odd series. I've got a slight fondness for it because it's so quirky.
Right.
But I could definitely put Joe 90 and Secret Service in kind of the same box. There's a kind of weird retro now, romanticism about it with the thatched cottage and stuff of Joe 90 and the vicar and the gardener of the Secret Service.
Yeah.
It's too everyday, too run-of-the-mill almost.
Yeah.
A strange era. But they didn't lose you completely because up next is UFO.
Oh, wow. It's just amazing.
So that rescued
UFO.
things. That rescued your Anderson connection.
Yeah. UFO was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. And again, I just sort of skipped over the others. And that, for me, was the more logical progression from Captain Scarlet. Went into live action, still had all the special effects. Models were beautiful. Stories were more complex. Never really saw the aliens. It had, never really understood everything that was going on. So there was always that sort of ambiguity. You were left wanting to know more and wondering whether you'd missed things or whether you hadn't interpreted them properly. And I think that a lot of the plot holes that, were deliberate. I think they were about in generating an interest. And I think that's a clever device in films. I watched a film called, a couple of times recently, called Primer. It's a low-budget American film about 2 tech kids that invent a time machine, and you don't understand it all, and not understanding it all, and not being in a position to understand it all is an intrinsic part of the whole narrative. And I think for me, there was a lot of stuff I didn't really get from UFO as to what was actually going on. And of course, ultimately, it was incredibly sexy. The costumes were amazing. The haircuts, everything about it was so sort of 70s. It was just fantastic. The colours were amazing again, and I loved all of that. And again, I loved, by that stage, I was sort of getting an interest in fashion, I suppose, because part of growing up. And I loved the cut of their clothes, and they were so sort of sleek and neat, So I'm a massive UFO fan, absolutely massive.
I can tell.
Yeah, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then there was a gap between UFO and Tron, and and when I watched Tron Legacy the other night, I quite like watching films just for the visual content, and I watched Tron Legacy, which I watch quite frequently actually, because again I like the visual perspectives and all those sorts of things, and that's just like it's just like bit more like UFO. It's like UFO could have gone to Tron Legacy. Yeah. All the colours and the haircuts and the costumes.
Purple wigs,
all that stuff. It's just all there. But yeah, no, I think that was it. I remember Land of the Giants and having a crush on Valerie from Land of the Giants. I was quite a fan of Land of the Giants, but UFO came in, and those. If I had a girlfriend, it would be one of the. interceptors. And yeah, absolutely fantastic moon base. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, there were so many cool elements, but again, that sort of slightly cheeky, ridiculously over-complex idea. Even the office descending down into Shadow Headquarters in the first episode.
Why?
Exactly. You could put a big why question mark over so many of the elements, but they were kind of...
Yeah, cool.
It was, a great idea. You could go into a room.
Yeah.
We could be in this room now and you could, tip a picture frame or something.
And the whole thing would just sort of transform. But I mean, I remember seeing Sterling Moss's house, because at the time, again, that whole sort of electrification, if you like, of, electric blinds, electric garage doors, all of these sorts of things, they were cool, weren't they? And I remember seeing a clip on Nationwide of Sterling Moss's house. And Sterling Moss had the sort of most high-tech house at the time. He would literally press a button and things would spin round and a cocktail table would shoot out and things like that. And so it was part and parcel of what was considered ultra-modern at the time. And the palette too. Purple was a big colour then. I painted my bedroom purple and white. And I love purple now, I'm always using purple in my designs and things. I've got purple clothes. And at the weekend, a lady gave me a book with a purple cover. She was wearing a purple dress and it was in a purple paper bag. And I commented on her sort of purple, thing. T-Rex, Purple Pied Pete, and it was so of its time, and it was such a good time. It was fantastic. Well, from a kid's point of view, from my point of view, I mean, obviously the Vietnam War was going on, and there was all sorts of things that were wrong, and race riots in America. But from a kid's point of view in central southern England, UFO was bang on.
That's a great summary. But yeah, there is quite a lot of purple UFO, which I hadn't really thought about, like Colonel Virginia Lake's blouse, the wigs, lots of purple elements.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was all just intrinsically there, and it was seen as what was modern and fashionable at that point in time. But what they didn't realise is that those colours would define that point in time. Yeah, and well, it's all this, isn't it? I haven't got much purple here, but it's all reds and
there's elements of it.
Yeah, and all of these sorts of things. So. Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved UFO. One thing that really, 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 really upset me about UFO, and that was, forgive me, bloody dinky, bringing out the interceptors in green.
You're not the only one.
What the hell was that about? Has anyone ever found out why they weren't white? Well, what's the matter with them? They're so cross.
You can see you're very angry about it, Chris.
I'm still angry. And also the little plastic orange legs which bent off, because they weren't strong enough to support the metal body.
But the colour thing comes up over and over and over again. So quite a few people spoke to. Gary Newman hated it. Mark Kermode, he was really irritated by it, the whole thing. But it allegedly comes down to a child psychologist that they employed at the time,
Dinky,
who said, you don't want that to be white because kids don't like white toys. And it was the same way back in the 60s with Thunderbird 2 when they did that
blue colour thing.
Yeah, because a previous psychologist said, kids don't like green, so that's why it was metallic blue. Just changing ideas. But obviously, if you've got an amazing, beautiful model on the telly, you want one that looks just like
exactly.
It should have been white with red details.
Of course.
Not
green with orange details and orange legs.
It was a horrible green too.
Yeah, it was metallic lime. It was just hideous. Yeah. I mean, it was really, really poor. And they didn't make the alien spaceship either.
No.
So you had your interceptor, but nothing to shoot it at.
What's it going to battle?
So what you did is you fired that missile, which immediately went under a cupboard or to the back of the oven or under the fridge, because it would just skid along the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
And then, my parents were so irritated. Can we pull the sideboard out? Why? I need to get my interceptor missile. I think there were two. I think they came with two, but it didn't make any difference. The second one went after the first. And my dad, and they had that sort of rubbery orange tip to them, which meant they obviously probably weren't meant to blind people or something, but that made them bounce, and then they just disappeared under something. So no, that was really disappointing. After the fantastic SPV and the MPV with a little gold bullion thing inside, which slid in and out of the gull wing doors, and that was a beautiful model. The MP3 wasn't so keen on the which was the red one? The
saloon car.
Saloon car, because they did that in like a metallic sort of flake colour.
The red was too deep.
Too deep.
It wasn't the proper
ruby. It was like a ruby colour, wasn't it?
In fact, should have been lighter than this red here. But yeah, it wasn't right.
But SPV was fantastic. I can tell you a story. I'll tell you how I got my SPV for 21 shillings. My father's, has given me, I've known that he'll say loads of good advice over the years, but the one thing that stuck with me, he said, never gamble, the only winners are the bookmakers. And I never gamble. I don't buy lottery tickets. I just don't do it. I don't do it. And however, my mother, who was always a force, decided that on one occasion that we would be allowed to have a flutter on the Grand National, and she gave me 2 shillings. I can't remember now. And there was a horse in the Grand National called Red Alligator, which, when I looked through the list of names, was the only one that attracted any attention. Of course. So I put my 2 shillings to win, ever confident, on Red Alligator, and it won. And so even before my mother had gone to the bookmakers, I don't even know where the bookmakers was, but she had to go and get the money, which would have, caused any amount of family rift. And I was therefore allowed to use my winnings to get the SPV.
Amazing.
So I got my SPV with the white bumper at the front, off the back of Red Alligator winning the Grand National.
That is a lovely memory.
Why was he back to front? That's another one of those questions. Did Meddings do this SPV as well?
So Derek designed the outside. Dad insisted on the driving in reverse because at the time they would. I guess because of the time there were a lot more plane crashes. They were trialing people sitting backwards, and that was allegedly safer.
Right.
For the a safer brace position with your arms crossed, sitting back. So he thought, well, obviously in the future everyone's going to drive backwards because that would be safer in a collision. And then he was like, well, how are we going to do it? Okay, with a monitor, fine. And then. He sort of, once it was too late, realised, oh God, we're going to have to try and explain to people who haven't seen this before why they're going backwards. And Derek's view, when he was interviewed years later, when they said, what did you think of Gerry's idea? Derek said, idiot. Derek was not a fan of the driving backwards thing, so that was very much Dad's.
Yeah.
But that's one of those sort of things that's happening at the time that you think, oh, that's the future.
Yeah, no,
and
it makes sense.
It's not. It's like the Sinclair C5 or whatever it was. Things that don't quite turn out the way you expect.
The Bond bug.
We haven't touched on music.
Yeah,
Chris. You seem like a very visual
the
person.
theme tunes were. I remember that the theme tunes. The rest of it was all sort of a bit overblown and very theatrical.
Overblown and theatrical.
Well, it was all, it was sort of,
It was big. It was epic.
Yeah, it was big and epic. Yeah, and obviously with the benefit of hindsight, because you could see that an enormous amount of effort had gone into the score of these things and the sound effects, score and sound effects. So an enormous amount of effort had gone into that as well. But yeah, no, obviously the theme tunes were incredibly important. They were the things that we dirred. We I continue to dir them. You can. It's going to go to the grave, isn't it? Well, how many more pieces of music from that time of my life will I take to the grave? Not many.
No, I guess not.
Not many.
And not many TV themes.
No.
Very few, I would think.
No, that's right. You couldn't. It's hard to dir the TV theme to Daktari. It's not durable.
Rather you than me trying that.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, all of Barry's themes were very, very humble and just, yeah.
Then again, they're up against Dambusters, 633 Squadron, Battle of Britain, March, all of those things. There was a lot of... they're pompous, really. Yeah. There was a lot of overblown, pompous, and they fitted perfectly into that because they were about the same degree of adventure and daring do.
Yeah.
I think for me, 633 Squadron is probably the greatest. It's people will argue maybe the Dambusters is one, but And even Where Eagles Dare, that snare drum in Where Eagles Dare, when Eagles Dare starts and that Dornier is flying over the Alps and they've just got that snare drum, the build of that music in at the start of Where Eagles Dare is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And that's one of my favourite films of all time. And, and I remember sitting in the cinema and and it's like sometimes you need a good start. You need a good start to a book. You need a great start to a poem. But for a movie like that, you need a good start. And the intro to Where Eagles Dare is quintessentially important in that whole film's success, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that what was happening with the whole Thunderbird, Scarlet, and everything else is that it wasn't direct competition because this was cinema, but it was, and it had to build the same illusion as those things. So they needed to be like that. They needed to be, this was international rescue. So it wasn't Bob and Bill go out fixing people's bicycles. They were averting disasters all around the world. Yeah. So it needed that sort of big theme.
Yeah, and that. It just added weight to the whole thing, didn't it?
Yeah.
Everything was Importance. About it being feeling more important, greater, grander than it actually was.
Exactly.
Belied its small size.
Exactly.
Little puppets.
Yeah.
Post UFO, did you carry on your association with watching Anderson? Did you get into Protectors or Space 1999?
No, I didn't. It was TV. It was nothing personal to the whole Anderson progression. I just gave up on TV. By that stage, I had the freedom of a bicycle and the lanes of Hampshire. And then I, got into punk rock. And basically, I didn't watch TV again until, I remember when I started Really Wild Show in 1986, I was 26 years old and I wasn't watching any TV at all. Nothing. So, it took me a long time to get back to TV. Probably didn't come back to it with a great deal of sort of force until Twin Peaks and that sort of thing, which was way into the 90s. So I went for a long time. I didn't not watch anything, but it wasn't a big part of my life. So I think that it was nothing more than that. So, yeah, I was on the bike by then. I didn't have time for it. If it was light, if it was dark, actually, I had a torch.
You were outdoors?
I was out doing my stuff. And then my stuff became serious when I started studying things. And then and the obsession switched to that. And I was absolutely driven and I didn't go near TV.
So has your kind of enjoyment of Anderson stuff been lifelong? Have you now started revisiting it in your adult life?
I've got in the cupboard there. That's my DVD cupboard. I've got the complete Captain Scarlet DVD collection, which I've watched. Outside, I've got UFO, which I haven't got all the way through yet. I watch them. I think there's an element of nostalgia involved, no doubt about that. But it's part of understanding yourself a little bit, I think, as well. That's the thing. They did have a very profound effect on the way that I see and think. And so there's a little bit of sort of thinking figuring out myself by watching those sorts of things, really. It's looking for those points of influence which may have slipped by because you're a child and you don't register them, but actually they do register. And as I mentioned, the fashion I've never got away from that. The cars that I like are Ed Straker's cars. I love all of those sorts of things. I love almost the unnecessary, gull-wing doors on a car. You don't need gull-wing doors, to be quite honest with you, on a car. Well, and some, but in a way you do. Because if you're gonna have a super duper car that's already over the top, you don't really need a car that does 215 miles an hour. Because you can't drive at 250 miles an hour, and you certainly can't drive legally at 215 miles an hour. Yeah. So why not have gull-wing doors on it? Obviously. So that whole design ethos carries through, And again, my sort of chosen decor at my house in France is definitely influenced by all of that. It's all clean. It's all massively into symmetry. It's all of those colours and forms. And I've got some chairs and stuff outside, which are like everyone calls them my Thunderbird chairs. They're in sort of storage at the moment because they've got a lot of space in here. But they're Thunderbird chairs. They've got side panels made of metal, and then they look like they've just been taken out of a 1960s rocket.
Amazing.
So I love all of that stuff.
And the t-shirts, which are the reason we're chatting. Has that been something recent?
No, I've got loads of them. I've got Thunderbirds, and I've only get them off of, Amazon and eBay and things like that, But I've got they've gone back years and years. I've got one or two with Daleks on because I was quite into Daleks, but I soon got out of Doctor Who. I was quite big into Star Trek as well. I was never a Doctor Who fan. Production values were never as good as Star Trek. So the first series of Star Trek, well, when they were shown in the UK, I was massively into that. And but I'm not a Trekkie as much as I'm an Anderson-y.
I'm glad to hear it.
No, it was American. It was just, it didn't have that done in a garage, simple brilliance to it. It was predictably brilliant, and that wasn't as clever. It didn't do all the things that we've discussed to actually punch way, way above its weight. And I love the sort of underdog success. I like that whole British mentality of, we need a bomb that bounces. I know, let's make one, So and let's do it in a shed, So I love all of that, and I love celebrating all of that. So that's what draws me more to Anderson than Star Trek, But no, I've got the ragged Thunderbirds t-shirts going back a long time. I've got some pictures of me blonde spotty hair with a Thunderbirds t-shirt on.
Oh, amazing.
Now I've got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Why did Thunderbirds Are Go, the film, bomb? I don't understand it. The poster's amazing.
Yes.
The film's great.
Well, I'm not.
Not that far.
Well,
too long.
No. I don't dislike it in the same way that I dislike Joe 90. But I mean, I think Dad sort of went to his grave asking himself the same question, and they always had a set of theories about it that people thought that there weren't really that. I don't know if there are any TV shows that had gone to film in that way. Whether there was a sense of people saying, "Well, I watch that at home every Sunday. Why am I going to go and pay to watch it at the pictures?" There just wasn't that understanding of it being something new and bigger and better. I'm not convinced that the story was that amazing.
No,
it felt a bit like a sort of half-hour Thunderbird story, stretched into a film.
Yeah.
Obviously, it looked beautiful.
Yeah.
But even that 0x sort of put together sequence at the start.
Yeah.
To me, compared to just the standard launch sequences or vehicle introduction sequences you get, it felt ponderous compared to those.
Right.
So I don't know. It just maybe felt like it took too much time.
I must order it and watch it. I haven't seen it for a long time.
Did you see it when it came out originally? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I had it on VHS.
Yeah.
But I haven't. I probably still got it, but I haven't got a VHS player. And then there was another film, Thunderbird 6.
Yeah.
Which was after, wasn't it? Obviously, yeah.
That was 68, so they were doing that alongside the end of Scarlet.
End of Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you see, one film that I thought was brilliant was it was called, I think they called it Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, or Doppelganger.
Yeah, Doppelganger. Well, he didn't touch on that, of course.
That is just such a good film.
It was a great idea.
That is such a good film.
It's so sweet.
Have you seen Another Earth? There's a film called Another Earth. It doesn't borrow from Doppelganger in the Doppelganger sense, but it's this other planet that is a metaphor. It's an amazing film, actually, Another Earth. It's a beautiful, beautiful, amazing film. Low budget sci-fi, maybe about 3 or 4 years old. It's good. Okay. I didn't see Doppelganger when it came out. I saw it on TV, years afterwards. And I loved the inventiveness of that, the simple idea. And it's quite dark as well, I liked that film. I thought it was, again, I was surprised that didn't do really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, that was the model work.
Yeah.
In particular, I'm thinking Derek Medding's rocket launch. I mean, it's beautiful. I've probably on my laptop, I'll show you, I've got some amazing behind the scenes photos of them doing it, and it's just beautiful to look at. But even the scale they built it, which is pretty big, how they managed to make it look how they did, I don't know. So yeah, visually it was amazing, and a great cast as well.
Cast was great, and then it's that bit where he's got the cut on his shaving cut because he cuts himself before he goes, and then he gets and he's in the mirror and he sees it's on the other side. It was just like, I don't know. It was again. It came up. I watched it when I was in my early teens, I suppose, and I just sort of thought this is a clever story. I quite liked it. It was really clever, and so that was good.
But all that mirrored stuff. There's stories of cinemas who were screening it, going, "Oh, hang on, they've spliced this the wrong way."
Oh, really?
And cutting it and flipping
Oh, no, really?
and thereby undermining
Yeah.
the plot. I'm not sure whether that's urban myth or whatever, but
Yeah.
it was a great one, and I've seen it recently on Blu-ray.
Oh, have you?
And it's well, all of the shows hold up on Blu-ray really well. That's the amazing thing is they're making it. A lot of the time they're making stuff in color, but they knew it was going to be transmitted for black and white.
Yeah.
Possibly the show's entire life.
And did they shoot it on 35?
Yeah,
they did.
All those Superman Asian shows are shot on 35, and
Right.
so
there's a lot of material there.
Now they just look amazing. The
I'm going to order
detail.
Doppelganger. I'm going to watch it again. I haven't watched that. I haven't seen it. It's half a lifetime ago, if not more, than I would have last seen that film. I think it's worth watching again.
I think there's a strong part of it which will be nostalgia.
Yeah.
But it is a fun film. You haven't been tempted to go back and revisit, or not revisit, but visit for the first time something like Space 1999?
No, I am forward looking. I like, I love sort of the increase in CGI quality that we've been going through. I kind of like the fact that films which we thought were brilliant, because the CGI was brilliant, we now watch and it's poor.
It ages so fast, CG.
Yeah, and that I'm excited by that. So I like CGI, and I like it being used in a sci-fi context, so I like to revel in all of that. And I watch a lot of films that people can't imagine why I watch. So things like Transformers and Pacific Rim and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But visually, they're outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And I'm quite happy to sort of forgive the 10-year-old boy, narrative and the appalling script. Because visually I'm just getting thoroughly entertained and challenged as well. I mean, they're visually challenged. So there's quite a lot of sequences in things like Transformers and the two Pacific Rim films, which I will watch with the sound down, and I just watch repeatedly until I can fully analyse the complexity of what's going on. Because the difference between, say Thunderbirds when there's a crash and Transformers when there's a crash is profound, because there's so much more happening visually, and it's layered. There's things happening behind things that are happening in the foreground, and so for me to be a lot of the time that happens very quickly, and you can't take it all in easily. It sort of cascades, so I have to watch those sequences quite a few times in order to completely understand them, and I like that process. So I do just rewatch them with the sound down, and of an evening if I watch a movie, very often I'll put a couple of those on and then just spend an extra sort of 40 minutes just watching those sequences in silence, just looking at the visual aspects of them. I find them really exciting.
You're a very visually driven person, obviously.
Very visually driven. So I have a great visual memory, and also sort of a capacity to take in a lot of detail very quickly, which is an asset when you're looking at natural history. Therefore, I find those things quite swamping. They're quite difficult. Actually, they're sort of beyond challenging. They can be uncomfortable, so that's why I re-watch them until they become comfortable, because I understand them. Yeah. So I like CGI. So no, would I go back? I go back nostalgically to the things that I love, and I investigate those to see what parts of me have come from them. Yeah. But no, I don't even watch. I wouldn't even watch the first Jurassic Park film now, because I know CGI is going to be rubbish.
Fair enough. If you could sort of summarize all the Anderson stuff that you love, the kind of the Gerry Anderson spirit throughout all those, I'm guessing you're going to say it's something visual. Mm-hmm. What do you think it is that is the essential Gerry Anderson spirit across the shows that you've enjoyed and grown up with?
I think that they were beautiful things. I think that they were very beautiful. I mean, it's like from Stingray. The first time I saw Stingray, I just sort of thought, wow, look at that. That's the most beautiful thing. I had a Supermarine Spitfire Airfix thing in front of me. I thought that was beautiful. And I saw Stingray and I thought, wow, it's up there. And they progressed all the way through. and then they became more tangible as they got closer to reality, as they grew alongside what was happening in terms of rockets and cars and everything. And then they became sexy as well, in terms of all of the costumes and the drama and the lifestyles and the characters and everything that those people were, their haircuts and all of those things. And they became modern, quintessentially modern. They were celebrating modernity. So yeah, the colours, the form, they were beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That's the key thing. So it's a very strong vision. I'm less interested in the characters. There were characters that I didn't like. We haven't talked about the things that I didn't like.
Oh, go on then.
Well, I didn't like Lady Penelope, and I hated Parker.
Really?
Yeah. She was too posh, and I was a working class kid, and I found her really inaccessible and annoying. And he was really annoying. Why would she employ that drunk, bumbling, mumbling buffoon?
I love that. That's very unusual to find somebody that doesn't like Penny and Parker. I have to say. Yeah. No, I disliked them. So when those bit points came on, maybe there was too much of them in that film, by the way, as well. Yeah.
There's a lot of them in Thunderbirds Ago, and I didn't like them, and I didn't like the sort of chauffeur thing. It was too posh. It was the posh thing again. I think about it. The idea that she had a chauffeur, and also he was an idiot. And so I always all sort of thought, if I did ever get rich enough to have a chauffeur, I wouldn't employ an idiot. I'd employ someone who would tell me interesting things. I'd employ like a teacher chauffeur, But he would mumble along, and I didn't like his eyelashes. His eyelashes were bushy and stuff. Those two. I loved all the rest. I can't think of any others. I never really understood the whole Tintin thing. And when I look back on it, there's some sort of real ambiguity of there. Because I always thought that she was Scott's, wasn't it? It was Scott's girlfriend. Alan's girlfriend. Yeah. Alan's girlfriend. But was she? I don't know. I mean, it was all sort of a bit ambiguous as to who she really was.
Well, they kept putting in those little kind of those unusual relationships. Even in Stingray, because Troy was sort of with Atlanta, but then Marina was on the scene. And the two girls were always sort of fighting together. And as a kid, I found that a bit weird.
Yeah.
It was quite a grown-up thread.
But it was unresolved.
Yeah.
Because even as an adult now, when I've rewatched them, you can't really figure it out.
No. I don't think there's any true answer, I'm afraid.
But anyway, I didn't really understand the whole Tintin thing, but I didn't dislike it. But no, Parker and Penelope, not for me. And the other thing with the benefit of hindsight is all the smoking, of course.
Oh, and the drinking, yeah.
Oh, the smoking and drinking. And the thing is, my parents smoked, and both my sister and I hated it. I've never put a cigarette in my mouth, not ever. Not a single cigarette has ever touched these lips. My sister and I we hated my parents smoking so much. They smoked very heavily, and they were smoking the whole time, and that finally got to me because when I became aware of how unpleasant my parents' smoking habit was, I then began to see it in films and TV things, and I would that would colour my opinion of that as well. Because I detested it. I mean, it was an open thing. We complained about smoking to my parents for years and years, my sister and I, and we hated being in the car. And then you go on an air path, there were people smoking. God, it was just that. There was crazy times. It was so unpleasant. But then you watched Thunderbirds and Scarlet and UFO, and they're all smoking away. And it's like no one was going to be that stupid in the future.
Well, but adults at the time, it was a kind of like a cool, sociable thing. So part of the aspirational aspect, isn't it?
Yeah. But it wasn't cool. But it wasn't cool. It was giving everyone cancer. I mean,
well, but that was a relatively new view at the time, I guess.
I don't know. I did struggle with that later, not at the time, but later. By the time we got into UFO and all those sorts of things, I was struggling with that.
Yeah.
The smoking side. It was just like, no, that isn't cool. That you wouldn't be doing that. That your beautiful Ed Straker's beautiful sort of gold jacket with a wonderful sort of a collar, almost like a sort of a Nehru jacket that he had. It's going to stink of smoke. Ugh. It's going to be constantly dry cleaning because it's going to stink of smoke.
Yeah, probably. Well, but in the film industry, TV and film at the time, everybody smoked.
Yes.
It was just the way, even the voice artists who you think would be looking after their voices and their throats were, recording studios were filled with smoke and grim. My dad was smoking 100 a day.
No.
At the time of Thunderbirds, 100 a day.
100 cigarettes a day.
That's chain smoking. My half brother has memories of him sitting, I think, watching the moon landing, and but as the one cigarette was on the way out, he'd be lining up the next one, getting it lit, ready to go, in a sort of thick blanket of smoke in the living room. I know, made very different time. So
and he didn't get cancer or any of those things, which is this, and there was it's just bizarre, isn't it? Really, I've had people in my own family the same, as well. I mean, I'm sure it did him damage, but
absolutely,
it would have done him damage. But
he stopped dead in 1979.
Oh, yes.
Stopped one day.
My father did the same.
Again.
Yeah, my father did exactly the same. I don't know, and we never. My sister and I have never, resolved. He's still alive. There's no point in asking him. He won't say anything. But we never resolved as to what made him stop dead after our years of nagging and thrusting pictures of lungs and destroyed hearts.
Constant badgering that did it, probably.
Well, eventually he just stopped, and that was it.
Yeah,
bizarre. 100 a day.
I know. Every time I think of it, I just think, well.
But tell me, what about the glamour? Because I know there was friction, obviously, because of the relationship. It's been very well documented, and it was, I guess, quite public because they were working in a business where there was lots of people and everyone could see it. But it must have been terribly glamorous, the whole thing. Because they were fated at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I missed out because I was born just as they were wrapping up the end of the second series of Terrorhawks.
Right.
And although at that time, Dad, because after the divorce, Dad lost everything really.
Did he?
Yeah.
Financially?
Yeah. It was all pretty rough. And even his last share that he had in those series was sold in order to...
He sold it to Lou Guy, didn't he?
Yeah, it was in order to kind of pay for divorce proceedings.
Lou Guy, was he he was a real friend of your father's, was he? Was he a friend or was he just a business associate?
It was a patron, I think.
A patron.
I don't think they would have socialised, but Lou was a very important figure in Dad's life. Without him, nothing would have happened, really.
Yeah.
When they were coming up with the idea for Supercar, if it wasn't for Lou jumping in and funding it, then everything would have gone down the pan.
Right.
So he was very important, but he did take everything.
Mm.
But certainly, Dad, he loved his Rolls Royce and sort of being driven around and all that sort of stuff. And there's a great bit of footage I've seen that Barry Gray, the composer, took of them on a plane going out to New York for, I can't remember what event, some event there. And they're all there smoking on the plane, drinking champagne, all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
So I think it was really, really glamorous. And having lost everything and then kind of got back into production with Terrorhawks, he was certainly trying to rebuild that glamorous side. He got his Rolls Royce again. And,
I did.
I've got a great picture of me sat in front of the Rolls Royce on a potty having a pee. Really nice. I won't be putting that on the show notes for this episode.
That's great. And then, of course, the other benefit must have been that there was the sort of second wave when all the people like myself, all the nostalgia for it came back round again.
Well, I keep having
and all the conventions and everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, conventions are sort of an 80s onward phenomenon. I suppose late 70s they started, really. But it doesn't matter who you speak to, whether they grew up from the 60s onwards, pretty much every generation, if you mention Thunderbirds or Gerry Anderson to them, they all say, "Oh, that was my childhood." Mm. Even though this show's maybe made in the 60s, you get kids who grew up in the 90s revival on the BBC with Thunderbirds, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Thunderbirds, that was my entire childhood." So it's amazing that through the generations, and people who watched it in the 90s and then 2000s, they thought the show was made recently because of the quality of it. They couldn't tell it didn't feel old. It's got a timelessness to it. But yeah, certainly in the 90s when Thunderbirds was massive again, and it was Tracy Island was the #1 Christmas toy and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
All my school friends were watching it and loved it. It was very strange. And Dad, I think I said earlier on that his dad was trying to get away from the puppets.
Yes.
All that time. I think 1991, 92 was the first time in his life that he really reflected on it and went, God, we actually achieved something with those puppets.
God.
Even though he really still hated them, he still called them little bastards. Still hated them.
Yeah.
But by that point, he sort of accepted that they'd done something special.
Yeah.
But didn't want to do it again.
Yeah. And at the end, is it true that they skipped all the models and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff was stolen from Skips and ended up in private collections. There's a couple of guys that live in Slough and as kids would raid the Skips and have sort of, a couple of uniforms and brains as glasses and other stuff that they found in there. A lot of the puppeteers took puppets away. Some people took models, but the majority of the models, certainly all the sets and quite a lot of the puppets ended up in landfill. So if somebody wanted to go digging through landfill around Slough, then they might find something interesting. I think actually they found, I want to say a Virgil mould buried somewhere, or they dug it out of a landfill, or was in the bottom of a skip. That was about the only thing that's been recovered. And most of the stuff now is in private collections all over the place. Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, he's got the biggest collection.
Has he?
I think he's got the puppet scale Fab 1.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't care about anyway, Chris.
No, I
didn't like Penny and Parker.
Didn't like Fab 1, no.
And he's got...
That's huge, though.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
He's got plenty of puppets out there. And otherwise, they're spread all over the place. But what a great shame that all those things were destroyed.
If there was a museum, a Thunderbirds museum,
oh, wow.
It'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
There should be one, really.
There should be one. It would need to be somewhere iconic, though.
Like Slough.
It would be great if it were in Slough. But I don't know. It would need to be in an architect designed.
Oh yeah.
Something that was a facsimile or alluded to the whole design ethos of those programs.
A sort of Tracy Villa or a Cloud Base or something. Yeah.
Like that. But it would be massive. Can you imagine the Japanese? They go mad for it.
Well, I mean, it's endlessly popular over there still now. I think it's closed now, but when I went over there a few years ago, there was a Thunderbirds cafe.
Yeah. Which
is bonkers, but beautiful.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's such a shame, isn't it, that it's not there. A museum would be phenomenal. Really, really popular.
Well, maybe eventually there will be one.
Well, if it's in private hands, that's the trouble, isn't it? Well, should have. Yeah.
Well, they didn't anticipate that
they never
53 years later we'd be sat talking about.
No, I suppose not.
This thing, and people would still be buying it, and still.
I just like to think that they were all having a great time, though. When they were making it, I mean, I'm sure it was enormously stressful, and obviously the business side of it must have been because there were so many businesses. It went from one to another to another to another to another, and there was the drive that you've mentioned to constantly come up with new things from grade and ATV and all of that stuff. But I don't know. I just always hope that I always imagined them in sort of Concorde and like you say in the Rolls Royce and all of those sorts of things. I think it needed to be glamorous. So it was obviously hard work. That was clear to see even as a child, but I don't know. I always wanted it to be that way.
Yeah, I think it was. I think for Dad and for Sylvia and the main sort of partners at AP Films and Century 21, they did have that experience. And for the rest of the team, I think they had a really good time. It was like I said, it was long hours and all that sort of stuff, and they did work very hard. But I think they enjoyed it and had a kind of family feel, and that shines through into the show itself, where they enjoyed their work so much they went the extra mile all the time.
Yeah. And Sylvia as well. I mean, I've never read her biography, or autobiography, isn't it? But there's all the stories circulating about the fact that Penelope was based on her. There was another character as well. I can't think. It was when they were designing the puppets. She had quite a lot of say, and that's what I've read. And that the closer they got to looking like her, the happier she was, really.
Yeah.
So there was always a sense that she was sort of kind of living part of her life through
through a marionette.
Well, yeah, kind of in a way.
I can completely see that.
And again, people sort of get offended by that sort of thing. But I think it's quite cool, to be quite honest with you.
It is. I think there's certainly the puppeteer who sculpted Lady Penelope,
Yeah.
said that, they struggled to get it right, and the more it looked like Sylvia, the more successful it became, and then it eventually just became sort of
Yeah.
a puppet of Sylvia.
Yeah.
So, but then you ended up hating it anyway. So,
Well, I bet that was because of the poshness. I don't know whether she was posh or not. Was she posh?
I think she came from less than posh
Yeah.
origins, but
Yeah.
it was the same as Dad, I suppose. They sort of both pulled themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah. Great. It's part of the whole thing, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's part of the magic. That story of how they got there is part of it. If I could do some quick fire things, and then
Yep.
we'll get
Sorry,
out of
we've
your
started
hair,
waffling.
Chris.
Go on.
No, not at all. It's lovely. This is exactly what people want to hear. They really enjoy that side of it. If you could be a Gerry Anderson character for a day.
Captain Scarlet.
I thought you'd say that.
No hesitation. I have to be indestructible in some aspects of my life because I take an enormous beating. And that sort of, bloody mindedness to say, go on then, keep going. Just keep piling it on. It won't matter because effectively, you bunch of Misterons, I'm indestructible is part and parcel of a necessary part of my character.
Okay. If you could have the keys to one Gerry Anderson vehicle for a day.
Ooh. Well, practically, probably Ed Straker's car. But, impractically, do you know what? This is going to be an unusual thing, but I'd probably say Thunderbird 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is unusual.
Yeah, but I could be up there on my own, and I like being on my own, and I'd be in space, and I'd have a fantastic view of the planet, and I wouldn't be able to see the mess that it's in from up there. I'd just be able to see all the beautiful blue seas and the green jungles and all those sorts of things. Yeah. And I like the idea of being in a sort of high-tech floating satellite above the Earth, disconnected, but looking down, and also being able to look at the stars with absolute clarity. So yeah, Thunderbird 5.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that as a choice. If you could only preserve one Gerry Anderson series and all others were to be erased.
Oh no, that's impossible. That would be it's bad enough that there isn't a museum of all of the artefacts.
Well, yet.
Not yet.
Well, maybe one day.
Oh, I hope so. One series.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing your whole series, at least I'm not saying an episode. You get a whole series.
My goodness me. But you see, the thing is, they've all got their own intrinsic values and strengths.
This is the great problem with this question.
Well, I'd probably have to go to. I'd probably, from my personal point of view, I'd go to Captain Scarlet. More influence than the others. Okay. Although UFO as a piece of TV, I would choose that. Personal influence, Scarlet. UFO as a piece of TV.
Okay, very good. And if you could choose to erase one Gerry Anderson show.
That was it, gone, Joe 90. It's already gone. I've just pressed the button. You heard it vanish into the ether.
It's gone into room 101.
Yeah, I'm afraid that precocious little spoiled brat that knew everything about thermodynamics is gone.
An excellent choice, thank you. Chris, if people want to find you online, where can they go?
I'm at Chris G. Packham on Twitter. I use that quite a bit. I have an Instagram account too. And I have my webpage, which is chrispackham.co.uk. And I just spend quite a bit of my time there trying to campaign to make the world a better place for wildlife. And could do with international rescue, actually. There's quite a few places. We could deal with the Icelandic whaling issue if I had a sort of a slightly more renegade international rescue. That would be quite good. Sorting out some of those deforestation issues in the equatorial zones. That's a job for Thunderbird too.
So you need to sort of turn yourself into a bit of a sort of environmental Jeff Tracy.
But wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great? I mean, the thing is, what was never, highlighted is the enormous wealth of the Tracy family, but the fact that it was being put to philanthropic use. Yeah. That's the key thing. I mean, in order to build Tracy Island and fuel and develop all of those things, they were wealthy beyond imagination, but everything was positive.
Yeah.
And if only we had, a real Jeff Tracy now who was doing those things and looking after the environment, it would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll keep our fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. I kind of like, you look at, people like Elon Musk, don't you? And they're trying to do great things technically. He's an interesting, let's move outside of his character, because obviously there's some things which I'm well, you don't know whether they're fake news or not these days, do you? But, but what he's trying to do with electric cars is remarkable, and vehicles and rockets and so on and so forth. So that's all a bit Thunderbirds.
Well, seeing the rockets do their vertical takeoff
and landing.
That is Thunderbird 3 and Thunderbird 1 there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So Musk is a bit of that. Whether he's the global philanthropist remains to be seen, and I've got my doubts.
We need somebody else to come along.
Yeah.
Chris, that's absolutely brilliant.
Is that right?
Thank you very much. You've given me 90 minutes of material.
Oh, good. Okay.
That'll have to go over 2 podcasts, I think. That's brilliant.
I'm very keen. Great fan.
Fantastic.
Wasn't it nice? I really, really, really enjoyed my chat with Chris.
Yeah.
Just because he was so passionate about so much of it, and it had such a strong influence on him as a kid.
Yeah.
Growing up with his dad. Even stuff like in the previous half, he had that thing he told me about. His dad had painted him a picture of Stingray, which he kept for years. I think he's still got it now in his man cave. All those collectibles, and obviously, I felt a special bond with Chris because he said if he could erase one Gerry Anderson show from history, it would be Joe 90.
That is really harsh. Erasing, not just forgetting about, but erasing.
Well, it wasn't him saying he wanted to. I said if you had to. It's one of those games of if you had to. Because horse teeth or mouse ears, that sort of thing.
Sure.
We have to.
Yeah.
So
because even Joe 90 gets a lot of love from some people, I don't think we want to see it erased.
And I am coming round to Joe gradually.
Yeah. Coming round to Joe. A short play for radio. Yeah. That's very good. So that wraps up your fantastic interview with Chris Packham, because you're never really, you're never sure what you're going to get, really, are you? And people may say they have an interest, but you're never quite sure how deep that interest goes until you talk to them.
Exactly, or where it's going to go, which is part of the fun of these interviews, which is why it's such a great pleasure to do them.
Yeah.
And we've got lots more to come. I am off up to Manchester in the next couple of weeks to go and see the team at McKinnon and Saunders, who made the puppets for Lavender Castle and made the puppets for the Firestorm, to talk to the workshop team there. Lots of them inspired by Gerry Anderson, obviously, to go into making puppets. Off to speak to Shane Rimmer in due course.
Great.
And plenty more as well. Lots of variety coming up, so stay tuned and subscribe.
Yeah, that's very good, because Megan on Twitter got in touch to say she was counting down the days until the Shane Rimmer interview, lads. So there you go.
Well,
hold fire.
It won't be too long.
Yeah.
Give us a couple of weeks and we'll get there, Megan.
That's right. Yeah, David took the time to tweet as well. He said he just
caught
more
up. Tweets.
Yeah, they keep coming thick and fast.
Amazing.
I know. He said he just caught up with the Gerry Anderson podcast 10 today with Jamie, Richard, and Chris. Listening to Tim from Network was fascinating. Richard was on top form, he said, which is why I'm reading this out. Some real belly laughs. Keep up the great content, fellas. There you go.
What a lovely tweet that was about.
Wasn't it? And we do get them. Yeah, so do remember that you can tweet Jamie, I'm Jamie Anderson, or me, Richard N. James, or Gerry Anderson TV, all on Twitter. You can hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we'll try and read out whatever we spot in the week. What's the matter now?
It's the cat now, don't worry. Anyway, look, I think it's time we went to the randomizer with Chris Dale, don't you?
Fantastic. I love the randomizer.
I think he might be in a bit of trouble.
Uh-oh.
Again. Always gets himself into these scrapes, so be careful, Chris.
In here, Marina, I think we've lost them. Oh, of all the Lunavilles to visit, we had to pick the one that's crawling with Mysterons. Still, I think we should be safe enough in here.
Who is there? Identify yourself, or I must sound the alarm.
Oh, it's Chris Dale and Marina.
Thank you. Can I help you?
Yes. What would we like? Oh, yes. We would like some ice cream, please.
I'm sorry. Your recognition disc cannot authorize that.
No ice cream, Marina. Well, in that case, we'll have to settle for making this week's randomizer selection in here, if that's okay. Marina, watch the door for me, will you?
This would be in order.
Good. Right, let's see what we've got. Oh. Well, for the second week running, we have a show that's new to the randomizer. It's... What's that, Marina? Oh, they found us.
You will never leave the moon alive. Orson, seize them!
Oh, cripes, that's torn it. Marina, grab the randomizer. Let's get out of here. Lunar Controller, you'd better come too.
No. Sid, seal all exits.
Oh, for... Wait for me, Marina! Whoa! Oh. Are you all right, Marina? Yeah, I'm okay. Look, I know we agreed that self-defense classes for you were a good idea, and I stand by that, but did you really have to throw Orson through that porthole? You see, there's this thing called explosive decompression. Never mind. What? Oh, the randomizer selection. Well, I'm afraid I dropped the printout when all that kicked off in there just now, but like I said, it is another series that's brand new to the randomizer. It's Captain Scarlet, The Launching. Well, here we are, finally talking about an episode from my absolute favourite Super Mario Nation series, the original Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. And what an episode to start with, because this, I find each of the Gerry Anderson shows has a really good episode, like tucked away in like the, not quite at the end, but sort of like just past the middle. And this episode, and I think Flight 104 as well, is an example of a really good episode tucked away in the back half of the series where nobody can really find it. I love this one. So, yeah, very excited to see this one come up. I just noticed this street scene, there's a window cleaner's ladder up in the background. That's an odd thing to see in Captain Scarlet. It just goes to show, every time you see these things, even though I've seen these things dozens of times, I'm still picking out new details every time. Now, this is a gloriously grim opening to an episode. I know every Captain Scarlet, pretty much every Captain Scarlet episode has to have this opening sequence where the soon-to-be Mysteron agent gets themselves into trouble, largely through no fault of their own, and pays the ultimate price before being reconstructed. But this sequence is quite, I think, quite effective because it's so long. Also, something I find somewhat chilling about most of these build-up to Mysteronization sequences is that
Looks like I'm on my own.
very often the character who's about to die is on their own, and they spare us no glimpse of their final fate. Like, this guy just took an electrical blast to the back of the head. Now his plane's going down, but not only is the plane going down, we get this gloriously horrible close-up of his dead body covered in soot, and oh, it's so ghoulish. And it's difficult to think of any real to think of anybody who got taken over by the Mysterons who was in any way a bad person, or you could say deserved it. They're just ordinary people going about their daily lives, and there you go. That life is now snuffed out, and in their place is an evil alien doppelganger. That is just such a beautifully freaky concept.
I'm fine. Just fine.
I'm really not a Mysteron. Why would you think that I was a Mysteron, even though I'm talking through gritted teeth? That's something I always find quite cheesy about the post-Mysteronization interactions with ordinary people when they say things like, I'm fine. And nobody ever clues into the fact that they are clearly not fine. They are clearly now alien-possessed zombies. That's not fine.
We will deal you yet another crippling blow.
In addition to the 3 that we've managed so far.
We intend to assassinate President Roberts.
Yes, sir. And within the next 12 hours. There's no time to lose. What are my orders?
It's an interesting streak in the Scarlet character in that he says things like that, like there's a Mysteron threat. Oh, well, I'm going to be on the front line. I'm the one who's going to be resolving all this. As I said in Grey Skulls, you have other talented, capable people hanging around Cloud Base and Captain Magenta who really should be involved with this kind of thing.
I want you to impose maximum security. Draft all the Spectrum personnel you need. Take Captain Oka with you. SIG, Colonel.
I love how it's just like, all the personnel you need is one person.
Request launch clearance.
Spectrum is green. Proceed with takeoff.
And why is Scarlet leaving on his own anyway? I know it's urgent that they get somebody out to the President to protect him, but Blue and Ochre are literally going to the exact same house as he is. It would... I think we need to re-establish our approach to economy here, Spectrum. This is a bit of a waste of fuel. I love the Angel launch sequence, and I especially love this bit here, which is entirely pointless. It's total padding, but we have this aerial rendezvous with the gloriously triumphant music playing as the Angels all join up.
The Angels are climbing for RV.
It's nothing they ever did in any previous episode, because there's absolutely no reason to do it, except to kill some time. But it just looks so nice.
I'm a very busy man, Captain Scarlet. Please be brief.
Mr. President?
Something I've found odd about the scenes of the President here at his desk, President Roberts, he doesn't appear to have any legs. It could just be that he's wearing black and it's masked against the black base of the chair, but I can't even see any indication of feet.
Remember, Mr. President, the Mysterons killed the Director General of the United Asian Republic.
Now there's a touch that was always welcome in Captain Scarlet, and you saw it in episodes like the Lunarville trilogy, and you saw it in Operation Time and Spectrum Strikes Back, where they would pick up on continuity points like that, and they would continue the story. That mention of the Director General is quite significant, because in the second episode we were told that if he was killed, the consequences would be terrible, but then he's killed and we don't know what happened. Evidently, judging by that line, that was quite a big deal, and it's rare that the show would just mention past events like that outside of a clip show. I do enjoy this sequence as well of the Angels sort of passing Brand's plane and then turning back towards him, again with this gloriously triumphant Spectrum theme. Even as a kid, I would look at this and see that the level of production on this was far above even Thunderbird. Something about the Century 21 aesthetic, these models, the up-to-date puppets, it just looks so much more slick than it used to.
This is a Spectrum...
And here we have a shot of Symphony, the Under Control puppet, the one that didn't have strings, so you didn't have to see them poking out the top of the canopy, which again, I think, just ups the technical level of this superbly.
If you can prove your identity, you will be free to proceed to the...
I do like how effective Spectrum are at imposing security in this episode. It is quite unlike them. Usually they leave some gaping hole somewhere for a Mysteron to just saunter straight through. And here we have something unique to this episode.
Maybe I should teach you a lesson.
That is far enough, Mr. Brand.
This is the only episode in which actress Lian Shin voices Harmony. For the very few other speaking appearances she'd had in the show, she was voiced by Liz Morgan. For some reason, for this one episode and one episode only, they got an actual Japanese actress to play her.
That seems to be in order, Mr. Brand.
And it's strange that she did this one episode, which basically amounts to this one scene and nothing else, and it got her a credit on the end titles of the show for all 32 episodes. When you have the likes of Shane Rimmer and, who's the other one? Neil McCallum, they do voices in like 3 or 4 episodes. They're never credited. So it's odd. What did she do? Why did she get this one episode? I'd love to know what the story for that was, but I suppose that's lost to time now. I love this shot of Captain Black watching Brand's parked car from the roof. The shot just looks kind of off. I think it's flopped, but the positioning of the character, he looks like he's possibly perched inside somebody's chimney. He also looks a lot like Peter Falk in this scene. I think he must definitely be flopped.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It's a little unclear watching this what exactly President Roberts' role in world affairs is. I'm presuming he's the American president. He lives in a White House, but certainly not the White House. Obviously, we know the world president is like the world president, and there are politicians like the Director General, the Triumvirate of Europe, who are also important. It's never explained what president's role is. And here we have a sequence involving Captain Ochre and Mervyn Brand with his, being checked by the Mysteron detector, which doesn't quite come off. There are lots of quick shots that don't really hold together, ultimately ending with the shot of Ochre cradling Blue in his arms, and they're looking at each other the same way that Troy and Marina would look at each other when they're lying on the beach. You know, that shot at the end credits of Stingray. I love that image of Ochre and Blue just staring at each other. It's very sweet.
The atomic liner is going to be called the President Roberts.
Of course. They could mean the ship.
I love that. I love that twist in the tale. We're only 8 minutes from the end and they think, oh, we're okay, we've got this under control, nothing's going to go wrong. And then they realise, oh God, we're in completely the wrong place, guarding completely the wrong person. That is such a fantastic twist. It points to this episode being slightly better written, I think, than Captain Scarlet often was. Because like I said, there was occasional huge leaps in logic and characters doing not stupid things, but just kind of being a bit dim to serve the needs of the plot. Here, they've genuinely tried their best, and they've done a really good job, and they just didn't have all the facts. They couldn't have predicted this. I love this as a twist. It's beautiful. And what I also love is in this scene that Scarlet goes off to the shipyard. He makes sure to leave Blue and Ochre there just in case he's wrong, and the Mysterons really are after President Roberts. Which is a good move because we know that Captain Black was hanging around the place. So this is our second ship launching episode that we've seen in the Randomizer after Trial at Sea, and I'm noticing that along the top of the podium where Mervyn and the shipping president and his wife are now standing, there are these flags that were also present in Trial at Sea, which look French, look American, look German. They look like the flags that we're familiar with in our world, but they're all slightly different. Each one is slightly different from the norm. It's enough to make you recognise each of the individual countries, but also to recognise that this is the future, as it were. I think that's a good touch.
It looks like a big crowd. Wonderful.
I counted 0 people in the crowd just then. There's this long panning shot along the side of the ship. There's nobody else there. And here we have the Mysterons have done something evil to the champagne, which was not unprecedented with the Mysterons. They would later return to messing around with people's champagne in Flight to Atlantica. It's something that something they seem to be quite fond of.
I will ask my wife to launch this ship, of which you can all be so justly proud.
Is that a quote from something, that of which you can all be so justly proud? That it's always sounded to me like that's a quote from something. I'm not sure. Please let me know if it's true.
Stay where you are, Earthmen.
He's got a gun.
Who said that?
Look out!
Who is that American voice in the booth there with them? That doesn't belong to anybody. But I do love this scene. He
was a personal friend.
Please, sir.
Martin King and particularly Francis Matthews are doing a really good job here, and also the sound effects of the screaming people in the background.
Yes, Colonel White? Yes, sir.
And the fact that we're hearing one side of these phone conversations as they're evacuating the shipyard, it makes it feel so much more real than it would normally do.
No, we don't know where.
But we know where. We know it's the champagne. And you always know whenever this puppet playing Mervyn Brand appears, that 9 times out of 10 he's going to play a Mysteron, because he was one of the few puppets that had a special blinking head. Captain Brown was another one, and Commodore Goddard, which made it easier for them to do this trick that Brand is doing here of pretending to be dead, but actually he's up and he's on his feet again.
No, Earthman. We will be avenged.
And this is such a glorious scene as well. The way the bottle swings forward and just misses because the bullet hit the cradle earlier. Just enough to throw it off and enough to do that. I love that shot of Brand watching the bottle swinging back towards him. It's just it's a beautiful sort of uh-oh moment. I do love this ending as well. This is quite charming of the president being so respectful of Scarlet in death and then realising that he's still alive and just being amazed.
You don't even have a scratch.
It's really nice to see him sort of getting the appreciation and praise that, quite frankly, Captain Scarlet deserves.
On behalf of everyone, all I can say is thank you, Captain.
But screw those other 2 guys who are standing out the front for hours on end. They don't count. Well, that was the launching, and oh, I love this episode. In my heart, I know it's not like the greatest episode ever made. It's not particularly spectacular, But the level of the writing that goes into this one, and the fact that you have that beautiful twist halfway through where it's just like, oh no, we're protecting the wrong thing, that really elevates it above the others. Who wrote this? Peter Curran and David Williams. You two are good chaps. You've done good work here. Can't remember which other episodes you wrote, but I have a feeling White as Snow was one of yours as well. That was beautiful as well. But for this episode, yeah, like I said, very underrated, this one. Doesn't get much attention. And I think it deserves a bit more attention than it really gets, really. What a start to Captain Scarlet on the Randomizer. One of my favourites. Looking forward to more in the future. SIG.
Nice,
Chris.
Always fun.
I love Captain Scarlet anyway, so it's always nice to see that. But, you know, he is absolutely right. I'd never really noticed about that before. When somebody is Mr. Nice, just how rubbish Mr. people are at being convincing.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, what? It's so obvious. And also, nobody who knows these people cares about them enough to go, something's up. They sound a bit weird.
It's a sci-fi staple, though, isn't it? You know, someone's overtaken by something. And, of course, the audience have to see that. And there's normally sweat on the upper lip and... I don't know.
Yeah, but the audience has seen these puppets murdered and then resurrected with the green thing, so they don't need to be all sort of weird in the way they speak.
True. Yeah.
Anyway, Chris,
great fun nonetheless.
Even that hasn't ruined my enjoyment of Captain Scarlet, so thanks for that.
Yeah.
I hope we get some more Captain Scarlet soon, actually.
Indeed. Well, yeah, absolutely. And of course, Chris will be back with one of his Big Rat Bites, which is one of his sort of monthly reports for our Fab Live broadcasts, which will be going out Monday, the 3rd of September.
I'm looking forward to finding out what it is. And if you're listening to this after Monday the 3rd of September, it's worth saying that we upload all of our Fab Live videos to YouTube, to the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gerry Anderson TV.
Great.
So if you've missed it and you want to catch up with the Fab Lives, then go there. Obviously, you can't interact with it then, but, you know, still post comments, we still read them. So hopefully we'll see you live or not.
Yes.
Soon.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly right. And I think that's about it, isn't it, for this latest one? I've got nothing else to say. I mean...
No, I think we're done, Richard.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I can tell.
I think that's it.
That glint in your eye. That's it. We've wrapped up. I don't know who we're interviewing next week.
Wow.
You'll have to subscribe and find out.
Yes, absolutely. Please do. Rate, subscribe, review, share, get in touch, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and we will do our best to read out your emails. But until next week, see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Right, thanks, Richard. Sorry, it was a bit late. Are you okay? You're looking a bit pale.
I'm fine, Jamie. Just fine.
Oh, good. Well, that's all right then. See you next week, Richard. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, we're so hilarious.
Oh, aren't we?